The title of A Raisin in the Sun is taken from a poem by Langston Hughes. Here's the entire poem. What happens to a dream deferred? Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun, or fester like a sore and then run? Does it stink like rotten meat, or crust and sugar over like a syrupy sweet? Maybe it just sags like a heavy load. Or does it explode? The first line of that poem about a dream deferred refers to the dreams of African Americans. To defer means to put off, to postpone. In the poem, Langston Hughes is referring to how throughout American history, African Americans have been asked to put their dreams on hold, that freedom and equality will come eventually, just not right now. And Langston Hughes is posing the question of what happens when a race of people ask time and time again to put their dreams on hold until some later date. The play A Raisin in the Sun borrows that line from the poem because that is clearly what this play is about as well. Walter dreams of opening his own liquor store. He wants to be his own man, his own boss, not be a servant to somebody else. In the play, he says, "All I want is to be able to stand in front of my boy like my father never was able to do to me and tell him he'll be somebody in this world besides a servant and a chauffeur." Mama wants to own a house in the suburbs. Of all the dreams in the play, hers is the one that is tied most closely to what the American dream meant for most of the country in the 1950s when this play was written. You see, homeownership was seen as a ticket to the middle class. Owning a home is an investment that helps a family to establish and pass on wealth generation to generation. That's why it's such a big deal that black families were shut out of the opportunity to buy homes. That episode of This American Life I shared with you does a good job of explaining all that. The policies that prevented black people from buying homes in the 20th century is a large part of why there is still such a large economic gap between blacks and whites in the 21st century. And then, of course, there's Beneatha, who dreams of being a doctor. Of all the characters in the play, her dreams are perceived by the other characters as being the most unrealistic. Walter himself asks her why she wants to be a doctor. Couldn't she settle for being a nurse instead? But why does even her own family believe she shouldn't set her sights so high? Is it because she's poor? Because she's a woman? Because she's black? There are things the characters say about how America works that seem to echo some of the criticisms of the American dream that we saw in The Great Gatsby. Remember what Nick said about people like Tom and Daisy living reckless lives and retreating into their money, leaving others to clean up their messes? In A Raisin in the Sun, Walter divides America into two groups, the takers and the people who get taken. He says, "We worry and cry and stay up nights trying to figure out what's right, what's wrong, while the takers are out there just operating, taking and taking." Later on, he says, "I didn't make this world. It was handed to me exactly like it is. I want some yacht someday. What's wrong with that? And I want to put some pearls on my wife's neck. Tell me, what man decides what woman should or shouldn't wear pearls?" So A Raisin in the Sun shines a harsh light on the realities of unequal opportunity in America, and yet the play is ultimately more optimistic than The Great Gatsby is. The final scene has the family moving into that house they bought in the white neighborhood. They are continuing to pursue Mama's dream, and they just might make it. It's not naively optimistic, though. We know things are going to be hard for them, harder than they would be for a white family, but they still have hope.